What if all voting age Americans were required to vote? Currently, 26 countries have made voting a requirement for their citizens, but the United States is not one of them. The debate over mandatory voting is centered around whether voting should be considered a civic duty, such as paying taxes, or a civic right, such as freedom of speech. Those who see voting as a civic duty think compulsory voting would be a positive change in our nation's politics. The most obvious argument in favor of compulsory voting is that it would raise voter turnout, which has remained below 60% in every election since 1968. This argument is supported in the statistics of Australian elections, whose voter turnout hasn't dropped below 90% since the introduction of mandatory voting. Compulsory voting would also pressure candidates to appeal to the population as a whole. There are also negative aspects of compulsory voting. Many fear that this new mandate would infringe upon our First Amendment rights. Compulsory voting would also increase the number of donkey votes, a term used to describe mindless votes cast by uninformed voters. Since there are heavy pros and cons to compulsory voting, perhaps there is a better solution. America should instead focus on making voter registration more accessible and available to the general public, which would naturally increase the number of voters without making the actual process a law.